Okay, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Victor, and I'm going to be your uncle for this training. So, I have a playlist on the channel that talks about data science, analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So, I want to continue the series with Python. So, if you've been following the series on the playlist, I've talked about quite a lot of things about data science process, data science for healthcare professionals, questionnaire design. How do you standardize your questionnaire? How do you go about using SPSS? How do you transform your questionnaire to a form? Uh, what are the different things you need to learn in terms of your roadmap? So I did a roadmap series some time ago. And how do you use Gen AI to collect your data, define the objectives, know the kind of analysis you're going to run. So I have that in this particular video. Now, I also did an intro some time ago for Python. So now I want to walk through a Python series. So this Python series is going to be for those that want to do Python for analytics, science, machine learning, AI. So we're going to go through this roughly within 2 weeks. We're going to cover basic Python, Python libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn, Matplotlib. Now, across the data science process, you see that you need to collect data, you need to analyze that data, you need to explore that data, you need to also write reports for that particular data. So anytime you're doing that, there's going to be several types of Python libraries you can use. And why do we say Python library? Now, some people will say Python library. So why do we do that? It's because if we need to code everything from scratch, it's going to take us a longer time. We're going to have a steep learning curve. But if we use Python libraries, it's going to be a little bit faster. So Python have well over 37,000 libraries, 530 packages, 200 modules. And all of this stuff is just to make sure that there's some predefined type of codes, predefined functions that can make stuff very, very fast for us. We can see that in action. So if you check the series, I have the scripts, the files I'm going to be using for the 2 weeks or 3 weeks as time permits us. So I have Python crash course. I have some exercise and their solution. I have NumPy series. NumPy is called numeric Python, right? So because in data, you're going to be working with numbers. So if you want to work with numbers, let's say you have what we call a data frame. You have a table. Now, you might need to do manipulation. You might need to do some calculations with those tables. So what library can you use to do that? The answer is NumPy. You have another library called Pandas. So what do you use Pandas to do? You can use Pandas for all the things that have to do with data exploration, EDA, Exploratory Data Analysis. So that's what you can use Pandas to do. Then we're going to be looking at Seaborn, Matplotlib, because for instance, if you want to do machine learning, you will need to first explore the data, understand if you have trends, if you have correlation, if you have patterns. Once you see that from your graphs, you cannot tell whether you can do forecast or whether you can do extrapolation. Okay, let's go ahead and commence with the Python crash course. So I have the code already. I will go through them, I will explain them, and I'll also provide access to some of these files. Depending if you are running this course as a YouTube channel subscriber, or you're taking this course as a mentorship or a physical class, or also a remote class. Now, so for Python crash course, we want to use Python to do data analytics. So we need to understand Python at the very, very fundamental basic level. And to do that, Python have what we call data types. Python have what we call data types. So there are different, all programming languages, whether you're doing Python, you're doing Java, you're doing R, you are doing JavaScript, you're doing whatever language you're using, these are some of the fundamentals you need to learn and learn well, because all the things you're going to be doing while you are working, it's going to involve most of these data types. So we have numbers, strings. How do you print? Lists, dictionaries, booleans, tuples, sets. So we're going to explain them as we go along. Now, This is called Jupyter Notebook. So to follow along in this course, you need to set up your environment. So you should download Anaconda. So whether you're using Linux, you're using Mac, you're using Windows, you can download a free version of this Anaconda. It's free, it's open source. You could use it to do a lot of your work as a data analyst, as a machine learning engineer, or an AI enthusiast or engineer. Now, once you've installed, I've already installed this on my system. Once you've installed Anaconda, what you can now do next is to go on your PC. I'm on the Windows PC. You just tap on your start button and you say Jupyter Notebook. Once you run this, it's going to open up in a file, in a URL. You're going to see something like this, right? So you're going to get something like localhost colon 888, and it's going to load your system folders. All you need to do is to navigate to where you have the files. For instance, I have the files. Okay, I think I will just close this up, right? I will just close this up and I will go ahead and do that. So I will close everything. I will just say Jupyter Notebook file. So once you've installed it, say Jupyter Notebook file. So you allow it to run. So this is what we call an integrated development environment. So it's going to help you code in Python, in R, and in a lot of stuff. But our focus is on Python. So once you see this kind of environment loads, the next thing you want to do is to navigate to where you have your file. So I'm going to tell you how to create a file. I'm going to tell you how to run the codes for your file. Then I'm going to also give you an alternative if you don't have Anaconda, or if you don't intend to install the software, or you want to code from anywhere. Okay, right now I have the stuff have loaded my browser. The next thing, I'm just going to navigate to where I have my files. So I will just say I have it in document, let's say backup. Sorry, normally you should just click once. I will just go to courses and I will go to data science and machine learning. I'll go to Python class. So this is where I have all of the files I want to be using for this class. You can have yours in your desktop. You can have yours anywhere. So if I refresh this particular file or this particular URL, it will load this. If I go to this part of my file on my system and let's say, I navigate to this, or let me say backup. And I go to courses and I go to data, right? So this is the folder. And I go to Python class. So this is everything you have there. I've just mirrored it. If I create a new folder and call it first class, you see, automatically it's going to create that file here, right? First class. Once I refresh, you see that I'm going to have that first class. So the file you have on your system is going to be mirrored there. So how do you create a new file? If you want to create a new file, you come to this area and you just say Python 3. It's going to create a new file. You can tap here to rename it and call it my Python class. Now, you're going to see that the file format for Jupyter Notebook file is IPYNB. That is Jupyter Notebook, right? Jupyter Notebook. So I rename it. So I already have an environment where I can do all of my coding. So if I typically say 1 + 1, how do I run the stuff? I can use Control Enter. I can add a new line, 2 plus 2, I can say run. So that's how to run. So if I say X is equals to 5 and I run it, I did Shift Enter or Control Enter, and I say Y is equals to 10 and I say run, I can say X times 5. What should be my answer? My answer is going to be 5 times 5. So because X is 5, X, 5 times 5, if I run this, I'm going to get 25. So you have an environment that you can use to code in Python. Now, what about if I want to add a new line before this one? I just tap this. I can now move this up, right? So it's now here. What about if I want to delete this first line? I could just use this one and say cancel. Now you're going to see that this automatically saves. So I don't need to like save the file. Once I type and code whatever I'm doing, it's going to automatically be saving. What about if I want to do an introduction before all of this stuff? I could add a new line and move it to the very first line and convert this from code to Markdown. So I can just say my first Jupyter notebook file. Sorry, notebook file, right? So you see, automatically I have made like a heading. So that's how you have most of the files I'm going to be using for this training. So I think every other thing that we might need, I will use them as we go on. So you see, you can save, you can add a file, you can cancel, you can copy, you can paste. Let's say everything here, I want to copy it. I come here and I want to paste it. So for it to duplicate. So that's about you using Anaconda, Jupyter Notebook to run and follow along. What about if you don't have Jupyter Notebook, you don't have Anaconda, or your system, you don't want to do any installation, you can use Colab. So I'm going to use this environment. I'm going to use this environment. So I will just say Colab. So Colab is a Google sponsored environment that you can use to do most of the Python stuff. So Google hosts Jupyter Notebook file on colab.google. So once you just say colab.google.com, you have access to the same thing we're doing. So if you don't want to install any software or you are not with your PC and you need to code, you just go to collab.research.google.com or say collab.google.com. You have a simple environment and you can just create a new notebook file and you can start doing all of the things you're doing. Right now, if you're doing this, you're going to be developing completely in the cloud. Right? So I can rename this the same file format. I can say my first notebook file, right? And the beauty about this also is that we can deploy AI. Now, that's one powerful thing about Google. I'm a Google fan. So Google have AI embedded in all of their platforms, whether Gmail, their GCP, Google Cloud Platform, their Gemini, their Vertex AI, their Colab, anything that has to do with Google, they've embedded AI in it, right? So this is Gemini in action. So I could just come here and say, I need a Jupyter notebook file that teaches me basics of Python for data analytics. Let it be simple lines of code with comments and examples so I can run them and learn, right? Once I run this, it's going to typically create a Jupyter Notebook file for me that I can use to learn basic Python for data analytics. So let's see the results that we have before we proceed. So just to recap, I've already explained what we're going to be working on. I've also told you how to download and install Anaconda. I'm also now giving you another alternative. Okay, see, it started talking about introduction to the Markdown cell notebook and its purpose. That is the environment I showed you. Variables, data types, then pandas and pandas data frame. These are some of the libraries I talked about. Then pandas using for doing all of those basic stuffs, and that's all. So accept and auto run. So it's going to run and prepare the code sheet for me to use this environment and learn Python for data analytics. So it's preparing that, it's doing an awesome job. So let's see what it got. Now, this is just for me to prove to you that Google have implemented AI in all of their platforms. So Colab is one of Google's platform. Just like if you go to your Gmail account, once you receive an email, you see that you can reply using AI. You can tell it whatever you want to reply. It's going to summarize it and do the reply for you. So this is actually creating a file for us. I'll see also how to share this file in the description. So this is a very nice one. Another thing also you need to learn as a data analyst, machine learning engineer, or AI engineer is prompting, because you can use good prompting or prompt chaining to do quite a lot, right? It's going to make your work a little bit faster. But first, you need to understand the fundamentals up to intermediate level so that you can interpret, you can understand whatever that the results you are seeing. Because if you don't understand what's happening here, it's going to be difficult for you to interpret, cope, adjust, and also learn. So let's wait for it to be done before we move on. So you see that it started with the task I gave to it, that we needed a Python simplistic guide. It should be a Jupyter Notebook file so that we can run it. Now, you see, this is a markdown. So how do you do a markdown in Jupyter Notebook file? You just do a hash. So it's like a way for you to do a comment. So if I go to Jupyter Notebook file and I put a new cell and I say A equals to 25. Now, if I need to comment, I just say hash, right? When I say hash, I'm going to say this is an integer. So I run it. So it understands. I can add a new line and I say B is equals to 5, or let me say 4, or let me say 9. I say this is still an integer. I run that, add a new line. I can now say C equals to, right? So Victor, right? Or I can say my name, Victor. I can now say this is a string, right? So this is me trying to comment on the notebook file. So that's what is happening right here. Okay, it's almost done. So this is a comment. So anytime you need to run something, because for instance, if you just type, this is an integer, you're going to have an error message. Let's try that. If you just say this and run it, you're going to see that you have an invalid syntax. So you need to declare this as a comment, because is, for instance, is a reserved word in most programming language. So we'll just say, put a hash. So this section now becomes a comment, so it can recognize it. So by the time we now add a new line and say f is equals to a plus 5, my answer should be 30, right? If I run this, I'm going to get, if I add a new line and say f is what, I'm going to get 30, right? So the idea is that you can use this comment to manage your entire environment. Okay, I think it's not done yet. So, but this is just an overview. I'll provide this file. You're going to learn most of these things little by little. So it has done a very, very nice job looking at the different data types, looking at control flow, conditionals, and all of that. So we go back to our Jupyter Notebook file. So I've told you how to use the Colab environment, how to use the Jupyter Notebook file via Anaconda. So let's get back to the files we're going to be using for this series. So I will go back to Python class. And the very first file we have is the Python crash course. So open it. And we're going to commence. So I will stop the video here. We're going to start the next video and we're going to begin running and understand this basic Python